Hello, and thanks for joining me for a discussion about Microsoft Azure Government. My name is Brent Wodeca, and I work for Applied Information Sciences based in Reston, Virginia. This is the second in a series of short discussions around the cloud and our take on the Microsoft Azure platform. Today we'll focus on describing the Azure Government offering. Because Azure Government is built on the technology provided first and built first by the commercial version of Azure, it makes sense to quickly recap our previous discussion of commercial Azure itself. So Microsoft Azure is divided into two main categories of services that it offers: infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. Infrastructure as a service mainly deals with virtual machines, networking, and storage, while platform as a service offers capabilities such as websites, identity, data management, offered as a service without the need to manage the underlying infrastructure. One of the key points in our previous discussion was that Microsoft's strategy with Azure is to make sure that infrastructure as a service capabilities and platform as a service capabilities integrate very nicely and actually complement one another. Another important point to remember about Azure itself is that the services are both scalable and elastic in nature. Scalable meaning that solutions can be crafted using Azure services to meet almost any demand scenario, from small website implementations to globally available applications that need to reach millions of users. And elastic meaning that you can take advantage of dynamic computing power in the design of your applications to aid in tasks like supporting peak demand scenarios. So now that we've recapped the larger Azure platform, we'll spend the rest of the time talking about Azure Government specifically. So we'll talk about the available services because they're a subset of the larger Azure platform. Talk about who can use these services and what areas of additional compliance does Azure Government offer beyond what commercial Azure offers. So Azure Government is a cloud virtualization platform built specifically for U.S. government customers. As we said, it's built on Azure capabilities and technology, but offers some key advantages for government customers. First, two specifically constructed data centers have been built to host Azure Government, which provides logical, physical, and network isolation from the Azure public cloud. Data centers are located in Iowa and Virginia, providing geographic separation between the two. As a result of Azure services being hosted exclusively in these specific constructed data centers, Azure Government guarantees all data, hardware, and supporting systems will be in the continental United States, which is important for our government customers. Third, in terms of who can use Azure Government, there's limited community access. Azure Government data will reside on servers that only contain data from other U.S. federal, state, and local government customers. And lastly, all personnel operating the data centers and underlying Azure Fabric, which provides the services for the customers, will be screened up to public trust level. So what services are currently available in Azure Government? This is a listing of those services as it stands today: virtual machines, networking, cloud services, identity as a platform service, storage, pieces of data management, and media services today. It's interesting that virtually all of the infrastructure as a service capabilities are in place, including networking with the ability to VPN, and a growing number of platform as a service capabilities are making their way in as well. So this is the list as of today. We should also caveat with the fact that there are many more services and features that will be rolling into Azure Government over the next year. And these will be services that look identical to the Azure public cloud offerings. So although Azure Government may never reach the total number of services that public Azure offers, the services that are implemented will be implemented in the exact same way. So there will be consistency across the platform. If there's one thing that's important about government IT, we know that it's compliance. And Azure Government has a completely separate compliance roadmap than public Azure. In fact, you can see the listing of those areas of compliance that are on the roadmap currently, including FedRAMP, CGIS, HIPAA, and DISA ECS. You'll notice that FedRAMP is also offered on public Azure, but the other three are not. So this is the roadmap. We should note that these are actually just targets right now, and they're currently being pursued, but they have not been approved. So as of now, they're compliance targets. To wrap up the discussion, I'd like to talk about why Azure Government is important. First, let's talk about the value to the government. It's important to have secure, accredited environments to deploy your applications. We know that. Also, it'll allow us to extend the on-premise footprint without exposing critical data to the public cloud platform. Also, it'll allow us to quickly respond to events and scale as needed. Again, back to the elasticity discussion. It'll allow us to better control, or at least audit, shadow IT, meaning IT infrastructure, computers, etc., provisioned without official approval. And additionally, as opposed to the current model, there are no upfront costs. You use the pay-as-you-go. So this isn't unique to Azure Government. It's a feature of the cloud. But to this point, government customers have been slower to adopt the cloud model. In addition to providing direct value to the government, we also see a value being provided to those vendors that are selling to the government as well, in a few main areas. First, we think that the government cloud provides simpler access to their solutions for government customers. Potentially provides things like quick registration, sign-on for vendor solutions, etc. Also, vendors selling to the government benefit from a secure, accredited environment already in place for their apps. Typically, long lead times to accredit the underlying hardware hosted in an on-premise data center at a government agency, for example, would virtually be eliminated. So you can provision the infrastructure on demand and make it available and make sure that it's secure and accredited for your app, even before selling the application itself. And lastly, being able to bring cloud services to bear when building your apps is a distinct advantage when compared to the on-prem model that we're so used to. So this wraps up our discussion on Azure Government. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thanks for taking the time out of your day to watch the video.